Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Are you ready for the future? Apple Slice have acquired a crystal ball with jet black high gloss base, enhanced Siri functionality, and AirPods connectivity to give you this year's products right now. Well, that would be the dream, but keep listening as myself, Simon, along with Nick, predict what we expect from Apple in 2017. Plus, fan feedback on what they think Apple's next move should be. So strap yourself in as we hit hyperdrive in a fresh and futuristic Apple Slice. So Nick, do you want to know what the most pleasant sound in the world is? When you put your Apple Watch on the charger.
I have mine on mute.
I look forward to that like every night. I put it on and then I just wait that couple of seconds and there's a ping and yeah, it's I really love the tones that they've put into the watch. But anyway, we have a massive episode here. As you would have heard in the intro, this episode is all about our predictions for Apple products this year. Of course, this will differ between both myself and Nick a fair bit, so it's going to be interesting to say the least. So, Nick, are you ready to tell our listeners about your future?
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm very keen. And just before we get into that, there is a new thing for podcasts in Australia. It's called the Castaway Awards. So this is the first podcast awards for Australia. Apple Slice, you can vote for us. Just go to our bit.ly link. That's bit.ly/vote slice. You can simply click login to vote in the top corner and you can either create an account with an email or password, but the quickest option is just to go have an account and log in with Facebook. And then you can just give us a thumbs up and it adds a vote for Apple Slice in the awards. So I'll post a link and a how-to video on how to do this on our social media accounts in the next week or so. But yeah, if you feel like showing Apple Slice some love, that would be much appreciated. Right, let's get started. We normally start off with product perception, but this time I'm going to rename that temporarily to product predictions. So we're going to try and put this in some sort of chronological order, at least what's, according to the rumors. So we're expecting some sort of event in March, maybe a little bit later for iPad. So Nick, what do you think is going to happen in the iPad space?
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a big year for iPad this year. There was not much going on last year. Well, the 9.7-inch Pro came out, which I do love, but the other two iPads didn't really see any attention, the 12.9 or the iPad mini. So I guess my big question is iPad mini Pro or no? It's kind of one of those where it's time for the iPad mini to really get in line with the feature set or be left behind, in other words, be killed. So I don't see it as their education push either. So I don't really see them having a need to keep it around. So I think this year we'll either see it going fully pro with the smart connector or at least Apple Pencil support, which I think a lot of people would find quite handy for like a notebook sized iPad. And then the 9.7-inch form factor I expect to stick around, but with fewer bezels. So as I've said before, we expect there to almost be like a bezel-less iPad with no physical home button, which I'm still predicting for this year, and I think it will be a window into the future of Apple's design, possibly without Johnny Ive at the helm. So we'll see.
Do you think that this 9.7 redesign that you just mentioned then, do you think that this is the rumored 10.5 inch, or do you think this is separate from that?
Yeah, so I think this is the 10.5. So I expect the whole, like basically the physical dimensions to stay the same, just with the screen to be stretched out right to the edge I don't know quite what they could do with the back part of the device, so I don't really expect any changes there.
Yeah, okay. I'm sort of thinking that this 10.5 inch will be a new size, so I don't think it's going to be replacing the 9.7. But what I'm feeling is that so the current 9.7 inch Pro, the one that we know, that Pro moniker is removed, and that size is just reserved for standard iPad, just called iPad. So what I think they'll do with this is take the iPad Air, the current Air 2, spec bump that. It loses the Air naming and becomes just iPad. It might gain something like stereo speakers, but I still think they're going to be reserving pencil support for Pro named devices.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I'm kind of thinking that the 9.7 inch, as we know, they'll update it, but physically it'll be much the same. And I feel like the iPad Mini, they're going to keep it in there. They're not going to drop it off, but they're just going to spec bump it. And I don't think there'll be much of a redesign there either. Because my feeling is that this new design 10.5 inch iPad is going to become the smaller of the iPad Pros. As you said, with the micro bezels on left, right, and bottom, on-screen home button, just the bezel at the top for the camera. And and I think they might I hope they incorporate 3D touch into it. That kind of leaves for me to think, where do you think the 12.9 inch iPad Pro then sits?
Yeah, so I think just to quickly touch on 3D touch, I can only imagine that this year's iPad has to have 3D touch. It's become such an essential way of navigating iOS 10 that I just can't imagine it not existing for the iPad this year. It's, especially given the removal of the home button. I just think that will be the primary method for secondary kind of controls. So I think we will see 3D touch. I really hope we'll see 3D touch just to get a consistent notification, like the way I deal with notifications to be consistent. So I really hope that that's the case. On the 12.9 inch, here I think that we're just going to see it being in line with the 2016 iPad Pro, the 9.7 inch one. So I just expect basically a catch up in the True Tone display, the same camera as the 2016 iPad Pro, and that sort of thing. I don't think we'll see 3D touch on the 12.9 inch, and I don't think we'll see any other unique features there. However, on the processor, I think both of the new iPad Pros will have an A10X, possibly maybe an A11. I think the A10X, the A10 Fusion, which is what the iPhone 7 has, is a quad core, but it's got two like fast cores and then two efficient cores. I don't see much of that kind of need on an iPad with a much bigger battery. So I think we'd probably see an A11 chip there, just because the A10, the X usually means a better GPU, but then the same CPU, which is a really powerful CPU, but I think they could make an even better one for the iPad.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with all of that. I think it's more the fact that you would have a 10.5 inch and 12.9 inch, both called iPad Pro, but one looking a lot different to the other. And that's where that part doesn't sit quite right with me. I totally understand what you're saying in terms of the actual internals being much similar. But I think to look at what they will do is have this new 10.5 inch iPad Pro, and then they will announce the 12.9 inch version, but it won't be available straight away. There'll be like a few month wait on it or something, in terms of, because of the actual parts and restraints there. So, I mean, do you think that could be a possibility? Because that would then, once this 12.9 comes out, that would then rid that, thing of the iPad Pros not being aligned.
Yeah, I would really hope so. Like I've been waiting for a few years for all of their products to be in line, and it just hasn't come through. I'm looking at your iPod Nano with the iOS 6 style design. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think we'll see a 12.9 inch being in line with the smaller one. I think they see 12.9 inch Pro as actually being Pro, meaning almost purely used for work purposes, versus the 9.7 inch form factor now, whatever it will be, 10.5 inch screen or whatever. I think that that's still seen as the mainstream iPad that normal people will buy. So I don't think they'll be as fussed with bezel-less, that kind of 3D touch stuff on the 12.9 inch, which is more of like a creative's iPad.
But you think they will at some point roll out that redesigned version of the 12.9?
Yeah, I think probably in at least a year. So I think because it costs so much more, I think that they would. I think what's coming to the 12.9 inch, the 10.5 inch is going to increase their cost. Like 3D touch being displays are, I think, more expensive. Newer parts that they have to design to go to like replace the home button, that sort of stuff. I think that they'll put that technology in the better selling iPad. Not believe me, I want it to be like purely consistent, bezel-less 12.9 inch. You could make the whole thing a lot smaller, would be absolutely amazing. I just don't think we'll see it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I kind of like noted that down as, I just really want that to happen, so then they are consistent with each other. But knowing how, Apple's history with supply constraints for parts and parts expense and that sort of thing, I do probably actually feel like what you're saying about the 12.9 is more likely to happen. But also talking in the iPad space, Apple Pencil, I would love for them to do an update with an end that acts like an eraser, but I really don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. At least for a year, maybe 2 years.
I just wonder how much effort they put into the Apple Pencil. So everyone I've shown the Apple Pencil to has instinctively turned it around. First of all, being amazed by how realistic it is, but then instinctively turned it around when they make a mistake. And I'm like, oh no, it doesn't do that. So I think it's probably the number one demand for Apple Pencil features. I just don't know how central it is to their like product lineup. I don't know how they would implement it either. I just imagine them probably. Have you seen one in real life?
Yeah, I used one a couple of times in the Apple Store.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you mean. I mean, even the end is kind of rounded like some erasers are.
Yeah.
And, so like you naturally feel like you have to do that.
Yeah. And do they, it's got that little cap that covers the lightning thing. Do they then just replace that and offer that as like a separate piece for anyone who's already bought an Apple Pencil and just use the lightning connector to power that end? Like, I just wonder how they would actually.
You mean offering like an eraser tip option end?
Yeah. And then.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Like if that was possible to like not have to update the whole pencil, but just to, offer like an add-on per se, and that, because of Bluetooth and sorts acts like an eraser.
Exactly. So
that'd be cool. Yeah.
I think so. So I'm hoping for that. That's kind of what I envision, but I don't know if they'll sell that tip standalone, but I think that would be the only change to an Apple Pencil 2 anyway. So
yeah. And so the event for the iPads, are you sold on March, or do you think it might be pushed back?
I'm sold on March. I think probably in March we'll also see some new watch bands and probably a partner announcement for Apple Watch and some Apple TV announcements. So I reckon we'll see iPad at a March event with that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yep. Cool. All right. So I guess the summary for iPad is that, we're thinking some similar things there. But I still feel like that the 9.7 or the iPad Air 2, as we know, will be updated and they're going to keep that in the lineup. Nic's sort of saying, no, they're going to replace that with what becomes the 10.5 inch iPad Pro. But either way, very exciting to see exactly what happens come March.
Yeah.
So we have some fan feedback. I posed the question to a couple of people and yourself, Nick, too, asking what product do you hope to see / most looking forward to from Apple in 2017? So I have a friend called Oscar in WA, and he said he wants to see Apple take on VR and AR, and hopefully they can solve many of the issues that the industry is experiencing at the moment. So take that technology more mainstream. He wants more Apple support, Apple Pay support in Australia, which is a definite. A lot of people do. He's hoping that the new phone retains more of the iPhone 4.5 form factor, so the sharper edges, which we'll get to that, but it's kind of looking like that may be included. And he just wants to see the Apple Watch updated with, speed improvements and be thinner, maybe contain a camera. And he also would love Apple to integrate secure wireless mesh technology into their platform. So given that technology is now well and truly big enough, he feels like Apple could offer pretty comprehensive coverage in that area. So, Nick, you asked Michelle this question too?
Yeah, so initially she was immediately keen for the 10th anniversary iPhone, whatever that, I guess we'll get into what we expect that to be, but that was what she was particularly excited for. And then one of the things that she's been really keen for lately was she's almost desperate for a Siri speaker. So she's really hoping that this is the year for the Siri speaker. And other than that, just for a couple redesigns to some of their flagship lines. So it's always exciting, I think, for everyone when something looks different, and that's what she's really hoping for this year. Because I guess with iPhone 7 looking visually so similar to 6 and 6S, and the iPad Pro looking like iPad Air 2, some of them are starting to get a bit stale for people eager for redesign. So,
yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. I also posed this question to Sadia in UK. So she's also known as Xalerate. That's Xalirate. She's a tech blogger and developer, and covers a lot of Apple reviews and such, but other brands as well. So she has a website that's xalerate.com. She said she's super excited for the 10th anniversary iPhone, is really hoping for some killer features, such as an iris scanner, she said would be cool, along with some other stuff, but basically she's expecting some big surprise, and she would love to see the iPhone in candy red. So, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say they want to see a red iPhone, but that's probably one of the first times I've heard it referred to as candy red, like it's glossy maybe.
Is that like a candy apple? I would imagine that being like a slightly darker red, but that'd
shiny. Be cool. An actual apple colored apple product.
Yeah. Let's hope not like the Granny Smith green. That would be terrible.
And finally, I asked Lance from Brisbane in Queensland. He's part of Review Culture. This is the podcast that we mentioned in the previous episode. He said that he just wants the standard Apple Watch to get tougher glass, as he has scratched his a little bit. He'd love to see a price drop on the Mac Pro, and that's actually quite interesting. The first time I've heard someone talk about a Mac Pro for a while. And he would love that if the Apple Watch bands were a bit cheaper. I was sort of saying to him, I feel like the sport nylon are decently priced, but maybe some of the higher end ones, that'd be good. And he just sort of said that Apple have a way of making him want things that he didn't know he wanted, which is exactly what they did with iPhone and iPad and such.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some bit of interesting feedback there, Nick.
Absolutely. I think I'm on board with quite a few of those comments. I'm not convinced on the whole VR, AR thing yet. Maybe Apple would have something that would make me interested in that space, but I think I've watched WALL-E one too many times to be a bit scared of that kind of future.
Yeah. Okay, so what happens next after a March event is WWDC in June. So this obviously is the big developers conference, so it's very much software and services focused. So what do you feel like is going to appear this year for WWDC?
Oh, yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good year for software. So, yeah, this is all speculation and kind of what I hope for versus what I would actually know. See, like the thing with with hardware stuff is they're like rumors that leak and supply chain stuff that comes out, whereas software is really just all based on people inside Apple and doesn't have to really leak. They're not dependent on anyone else. So this is what I expect and hope for them to come out with. So I guess to start on iOS, there've been like a few rumors that there's going to be a major point update to iOS in March. I'm not sure about that, but when it comes to iOS 11, I think we'll see a huge focus on email. I know they tend to take what Walt Mossberg says quite seriously, and he's been complaining about their email app for quite a while, and I think that they might see some opportunity to do something interesting with email. I expect some focus on iPad, whether that's to a point update to iOS 10 or rolled over to iOS 11. That kind of like focus on iPad might be something, as Lon says, that we don't know we want, or it could be things like a better app switcher or enhanced multitasking, which I'm keen for a better app switcher. I'm not sure about the whole scrolly thing. You can keep scrolling for days and it's just in no particular order. And then I think we'll see some.
Yeah, they definitely need to update that.
Yeah, it's very
that
strange.
lack of order. It is. Yeah, it's
like recently used and then alphabetical, but then not necessarily. So it's really confusing and a bit silly. So I envision like I'm sure we've briefly touched on it before, but like basically an iOS home screen that you could just flick through. So I think we'll see some other business enhancements to iOS. I know that on the iPad side, business is they're a huge market, so enterprise enhancements, and then possibly, maybe, potentially fingerprint switching on iPad between accounts. We know that there are multiple accounts on education devices, and I think they might see an opportunity to rather sell one iPad to a house and get them to upgrade at least one of them, versus like everyone being stuck on an iPad Air or iPad 4 that they just say, well, works for me and I can watch movies or read my email. So
I think basically like the more they do for iOS on iPad, that pushes it further away from iPhone or being felt, seeming to be like just like a large iPhone. Yeah. I mean, it already has a lot of differences, but I think if they can push it further towards that desktop level experience, all these sort of things that you're mentioning, I think will help in that direction.
So on macOS, we haven't really seen much going on macOS over the past 2 years, sort of minor updates each time, and I kind of expect the same thing. So I think we might see some more interesting touch bar features and battery life enhancements, given the somewhat debacle on the new MacBook Pro, and then potentially some macOS enhancements that focus on integration with your other Apple devices. I've heard some stuff about like health being on macOS thrown around as being a useful feature. Just some of those kind of things. I'm not sure. I don't think we'll see too much there.
I think it'll be mostly performance updates and stuff. Bringing iMessage up closer to the level of iPhone on there would be good. Some stuff like effects and that aren't quite there on macOS. Definitely more with the touch bar. That's probably going to be the bigger focus of it. More third-party support with touch bar. And I think that there'll be a couple of demos for third-party programs with touch bar as well. Now, I feel like overall that Siri is going to be a big part of WWDC, but for macOS, I think it'll just be some improvements, but it definitely won't be a focus. Just before we move on to other segments of what we think will be at WWDC, I have some theories on the naming of macOS. Oh, yeah. So I feel like they're going to break away from the mountain range theme naming, but they keep it in a related location. So possibly Californian forests in Sierra Nevada. So hear me out. We have macOS Sequoia, macOS Tahoe, or macOS Inyo. I feel like probably Tahoe, because they've got that Lake Tahoe relation there. But I feel like that it's still, because it's not, because they're keeping it within the same location and that sort of thing, it reflects the fact that it's not a huge update. Like going from, when they went from wildcats to locations, that was a big difference sort of thing. Yeah. And I feel like, they're not going to just then name it another section of the mountain range. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we'll probably see some sort of move away from the mountain ranges. Tahoe sounds pretty good. I'm not sure about the other ones. So, we'll...
Yeah. I like the look of Sequoia, but no one's going to be able to pronounce that unless you know the region. I had to Google how to pronounce it. So,
well, the same was true for Yosemite, so I'm not sure that they worry too much about that.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, what else do you think is going to be in this event?
Yeah, I think so. One of the themes for 2016, which I've found most interesting, was tech bloggers and tech sites basically calling Apple out and saying that they weren't quite on par with machine learning and their AI stuff, which I think was a bit probably out of line. I just think there's a lot of stuff that machine learning and AI is used for that they don't really know about, and I think Apple made that clear when they started speaking about portrait mode and stuff like that. But anyway, to continue on that, I think we'll see some major Siri enhancements. So a lot of stuff happens with Siri on the server side, which we don't really see, but I've noticed in the past 2 years or year and a bit that Siri is a lot quicker, and that had to do with them moving some of the infrastructure that Siri was based on. And so there's a lot of stuff that they do that changes and updates Siri as we go. But I think they'll make a big thing of actually showing how, or making it in line with the capabilities of Google Assistant. And it's already largely in line. It's just less vocal about like queries. So often when you query Siri, because there's a screen that you're looking at, it will provide most of the information just on the screen and not read it out to you. But I noticed I did a query the other day and it like read way more than it used to. So I think we'll see more focus on that. I think we'll see,
and that sort of thing, like where it's reading it out to you, that's definitely more in line with what a Siri speaker would do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think we'll see them expand on the app categories. So currently there's 6, and I'm not going to remember all 6, but basically, like I used it for Uber the other day, which was pretty awesome. And I think we'll see some more stuff there, some different categories, potentially music. I know that was a big one that people were like, well, why no Spotify? So I think we'll see probably Spotify with Siri this year. And I think there'll be some focus on unifying the Siri experience across all of your devices. So just as a refresher, I know that some people only think that Siri is on iPhone after iPhone 4S, but it's now on iPhone, Apple TV, iPad, Apple Watch, iPod, and Mac. So Siri is everywhere. You're kidding me. And I did not know that. Some people really, really don't. So I think we'll see some unification because, for example, you could ask Siri, you could ask Siri a query about something on your Apple TV that you can't on your phone, like play something on Netflix on your iPad or your phone, and it won't do that. Or the other way around, you could ask Siri to start a timer on your Apple TV and it won't do that, but could on other devices. So I think we'll see some more parity there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's going to be, they're going to sort of bring it all in line, a big push on Siri. And before we kind of discuss the other software releases that we're expecting, I feel like they could possibly, I'm hoping, debut the Siri speaker at WWDC, or at least show it. Like, it won't be available, but it'll be like a presentation of it. Now, you were sort of talking about that you feel like a Siri speaker would be in September.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think what will happen is they'll expand categories and make a focus of how Siri is now like a developer's resource that they can tap into and then be like, try and get them on board with Siri and then say, well, the reason, or not explicitly say it, but the reason for this huge push on Siri is, oh, look, Siri Speaker, one more thing. So I think we'll see it at WWDC for app integration side from third parties to be released in September along with the new iPhone.
Regardless of whether it's shown then or in September, I feel like it'll be available later than that. Like it might even be like a MacBook Pro situation or something, like an October-November launch. But yeah, assuming that it's real and it is revealed, I don't actually think it'll have the name Siri Speaker. So what do you reckon about that? I'm sort of thinking it won't be called that. It won't use the word home or assistant. It'll be Apple something. I'm thinking maybe Apple Hub.
Ooh, I really hope not Hub.
I was just trying to think of words that sounded central and that, but I know I was looking up all these other words that mean home and house and stuff, and they just didn't fit, or they had like negative connotations to it. So I was thinking like Apple Abode, but that also doesn't sound quite right. So either way, I don't think they're going to call it Siri Speaker. But what do you reckon about that?
I've never thought of what it would be called because I'd only assumed it would be called Siri Speaker, but obviously it wouldn't be. I guess Google got in there with the Apple-like name, which is just like, iPhone is literally the phone, Apple Watch, and I think Google Home got in there with Home. Could it just be Apple Speaker?
They could just call it Apple Home. I mean, they really could. Like, I mean, there's, Samsung Pay and Apple Pay, if you know what I mean. Like,
oh yeah, there's nothing stopping them.
But it's more the fact that it just then puts in direct competition with, oh, look, they ripped off the name sort of thing. So
I think a real rip-off of the name would be if it was called Apple Alexa.
Yes. I was initially thinking Central. I was like, well, Core is Central. And then I was like, Apple Core. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, no, everyone's going to absolutely rip it apart.
I know you would love it, but I really don't think they'll go with that.
Anyway, it's going to be interesting to say the least, but I just feel like that, yes, Siri powers it, but it is essentially an Apple device. So it'll follow the thing, like with Apple Watch, you'll see the logo and then the word watch. Be like the logo, then the word, and whatever it is. So, yeah. And then what's next in WWDC?
Yeah, so I think it's important not to forget about WatchOS. WatchOS 3 really changed the Apple Watch game. I think it made Apple Watch a whole lot more useful and like just way better to navigate. So I know it was well received quite widely. So I think we'll see some continued focus on that. They haven't been afraid to change the way that things have been going. So, but I think specifically for WatchOS this year, we'll see better responsiveness. So for, last time I mentioned some issues with, say, Scribble, where it takes a little while to realize your first letter, but other than that, it's pretty quick. So I think we'll see some focus there. I don't think we'll see any changes in battery life. Battery life on Apple Watch is widely regarded as being good despite it being 1 day. So I think people either think of it as 1 day, 7 day, or a month. And
well, it's interesting. I mean, I put it on charge every night, but I reckon I could easily get 2 days out of it. Like, I'm finishing each day on like 65% now.
Yeah. So I can't remember if I put mine back on the charger today, but I only put my watch on at about 12 and it's in the 90s still. So it's kind of, it's amazing. And I don't think there'll be any need for any changes to improve battery life. Again, as I've said, because I don't think, unless they got it to 2 days, even then it's like, well, is 2 days really that much different from a day? And then what did you lose to get that? So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And then I think we'll see. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I was going to say, I think that like with WatchOS 3, where they showed the Breathe app, I think there'll be a new app, that they'll just add to it. I'm not exactly sure what it would be, but that'd be cool if they did that. And I'm expecting a few sort of UI tweaks. Not that there's anything wrong with the current UI, And I feel like there's going to be a couple of new third-party apps that they'll do some demos for.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think we also probably see some Siri app integration with the whole Siri push and some parity across devices. So I think I tried to order the Uber on my watch first and it didn't let me, but I think there's not Siri app integration on the Apple Watch, but if there is already, please let me know. I haven't checked that out too much, but I think we can see that in WatchOS 4. And then I definitely think we'll see some continued health and fitness enhancements. The industry certainly, or the market at the moment for wearables is health and fitness mad. I think that's just where it's at. That's what the market, that's like the primary market for wearables, and that's where the focus is. So we'll see some continued focus there.
Oh, I just realized I know what the new app should be. I know it's not going to be, so globally wanted, but I'd love their own dedicated podcasts app. It would like to work like the music app where you can sync some episodes to it. I admittedly a little bit pointless for me because I don't have AirPods, but still, I just think that'd be cool.
But it's a bit of a glaring omission, don't you think? I'm trying to think of a situation that they envisage people wanting to listen to a podcast that when their phone wasn't nearby. And I think the only case is really exercising, and I'm not sure they see the need for that. I certainly think it would be cool, at least to just go in and control my iPhone from there, because you can't go, once you've already set one app playing, yes, you can control it from now playing, but you can't go into it from
switch
scratch.
Episodes or anything. Yeah, exactly. At least if they did that, just quietly added it in there, so you're able to, just actually control which episodes straight from the watch. That'd be cool. But as I know, there's not a huge demand for it, and as you pointed out, people exercising and listening to podcasts. It's more likely they'll be listening to music. So
I think it's a glaring omission and an easy fix for them. But yeah, I guess there are other apps if you really want that. I know I tried Overcast today to have for that exact same situation where I wanted to go for a run and listen to a podcast. So it had a pretty good UI. Check that out, I guess, if they miss that this year.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving on to tvOS. It's always funny that tvOS actually has such a large number. It's up to version 11. Although I always think of tvOS as having a small number because I just think of the Apple TV 4. But of course, the Apple TV's existed for a long time.
Yeah.
So, just quickly, what do you reckon they're going to throw out for this one?
So I think we'll see. I'm hoping for user switching. I've mentioned that it's a home device, like multiple people use it in my home, but only my account's there, like only my photos are there, only my podcasts are synced, only my music is there, and I think there's a lot of space to have some user switching. So I don't know how, maybe through your voice, through Siri remote, that would be insanely cool. I'm hoping, I don't know, let's see, maybe if they can do it for the speaker, they could do it for the TV.
No, exactly. I kind of feel like that, that the push for tvOS announcement in this one will be more expansion with the TV app. And as you were sort of pointed out, the need for more TV partners.
Yeah.
In that space. So, yeah, I mean, are you kind of not thinking that, Australia will get a TV app until June time?
I don't think we'll get one for a year and a half, 2 years.
Great.
It's easy. I just don't know how keen people like Foxtel are to play ball.
Yeah. Oh, well, one day.
Were you thinking June?
Oh, I just guess I'm like overly optimistic when it comes to this. I'm like, oh yeah, that's sweet. They'll just roll that out and don't actually think of the logistics behind it. But it would be cool if they did. I feel like that Apple's rumored almighty streaming service won't happen. But if it did, then there's going to be a big push on more original content from Apple. I feel like they're going to be pushing that when they show off Apple Music. They might have a new series or a new documentary or something. But yeah, if they do get their own streaming service up and running, it's going to have a lot of Apple created content, much in the way that Netflix has its own originals. But yeah, I still feel like that their own streaming service would be at least another year away. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. But I do think, to take attention away from that, I think we'll see 4K iTunes content, some pushes on Apple Music. This could be around more original content, as you say, or it could be on like exclusives. I think we'll see just some other predictions from this sort of software related side, software and services. I think we'll see some improvements to iCloud. Can't really give an example right now, but I think we'll see something there. And I think we'll see some Apple Pay. I don't think we'll see Apple Pay in Australia widespread, but I think we'll see some more countries getting support for Apple Pay, and maybe some other announcements. I know they had already announced like rewards cards, maybe rewards for countries other than US.
Yeah, I'm kind of also thinking, if we're talking about services and stuff, is Apple Music, as I said before, I think more original content. There'll be more on carpool karaoke. They will announce a series, maybe that Dr. Dre series that had been rumored, or the Planet of the Apps. I don't know. They may be showing that off. Another documentary would be cool, seeing it's Apple Music, so maybe an influential producer or a studio that is housed a lot of famous albums. There'll be expansion of Beats Radio, just some more exclusives in that area. And I actually think that they won't just let Connect fade away. I think they're just going to push a few more updates, bit of a boost for Connect, and there'll be no pricing or plan changes.
Do you think we'll see Beats Radio 2 or Beats 2?
Yeah, I just feel like that they with Apple Music, they always come back to Beats Radio, so something like that I'm expecting, some sort of addition or expansion, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I know you got it, but I'm not sure if I have made myself clear. I just mean like an alternate channel, the same way we have like Fox Sports 2 or something like that, where they could have more. I know a lot of people see Beats 1 as being like pop and rap, but it's not. It's quite got well versed in their different music varieties, so I think we'll see some. Yeah.
I think that would be good. Like they need to. I've pointed out before with Apple Music, there's particularly lately in the advertising, there's been a lot of focus on the sort of R&B, pop, and rap sort of genres. So it would be good to definitely expand a bit more on that. And I guess quickly for me with iOS 11, new emoji, as always, an actual dark mode in the settings, as opposed to this rumored theater mode in iOS 10.3.
Who knows what that was about?
Yeah, something about a popcorn icon, which I hope to never see. And when we mentioned the Siri interjection with group messaging, I actually think that will be in iOS 11. I know that you were sort of thinking it'd take a bit longer than that, but overall, I feel like Siri will be a lot more conversational too, more third-party integration, and a bit more 3D touch. And I think they're going to hold off any sort of augmented reality tech or updates until the iPhone announcement.
You just touched on like a group chat with Siri, and I think this might be like quite timely as just the potential for group FaceTime calls. So that's rumored for iOS 11, could get pushed back. Sounds pretty cool. I would be keen.
Yeah, cool. And just quickly, I feel like that the Apple Hub, because that's what I'm calling it for the moment, I feel like that will be available in a gloss white, a gloss black, and some sort of aluminium space grey style. To keep it kind of neutral within the home. But I feel like that they're part of the actual device will have like an OLED strip or like a color bar or something on it for like visual customization.
Do you think it will be like a vertical or horizontal sort of layout, like a Beats Pill or an Amazon Alexa, or like round but flatter?
It'll be more like Google Home, like that. Like it'll be a bit more rounded. It won't be so much of a pole like Alexa, but it will be smaller than both of them. I reckon.
Smaller usually means worse sound. So I have no idea how this thing will
Yeah,
work.
I'm not really sure.
I think it will be white though. I just think it will be white. And
yeah, okay.
And plastic.
Yeah.
I'm hoping not.
Okay, so any more else on WWDC, or you're keen to...
No, I think that's all we'll see there.
Okay, cool. So I feel like that there will be a Mac event. Other Mac products definitely need an update. So I feel like the 12-inch MacBook will get a spec bump, but still one USB-C port. The 13-inch MacBook Pro and the 15-inch, the ones released recently, they will get spec bump to include the Kaby Lake processors, which will allow the 15-inch to get 32 gig RAM upgrade option. The MacBook Air will either be untouched or they will remove it. And I feel like that those updates I just mentioned will happen quietly. I'm feeling like an October event will include a new iMac. This will have a spec bump at the same 4K, 5K screens. The physical design will have a smaller chin and the back will be even thinner. The base won't contain any technology. I know some recent similar computers have put their tech in the base of it, but I don't think that'll be the case. They will replace USB-A with USB-C, and they will remove the Thunderbolt because of USB-C. But I do feel like they will keep the SD card slot and they'll keep Ethernet, obviously. So what do you think about those?
Yep, I think you're pretty much spot on. I think that like pretty much addresses all of the issues that people have been having. Like other stuff like it being in the base, the tech being put in the base, I agree with you there. I don't think Apple would go from the awesome, like groundbreaking way of doing it all in the screen to palming off the tech and putting it down at the bottom. So, yep. And that's, yeah, pretty much agree with you on all of those points.
Cha-ching. Cool. I think Mac Pro. So we're definitely going to go a Mac Pro. I feel like it'll be redesigned. It'll still be rounded like the current one, but it'll either be, I don't know, more compact or a bit skinnier. Hopefully not to its detriment. Don't want a performance downgrade. There'll be spec bumps overall, obviously. Now, the ports in the current MacBook Pro were 4 USB-A, 6 Thunderbolt 2, 2 Ethernet, 1 HDMI, audio out, and 3.5mm jack. These will become, I predict, 8 USB-C, 2 Ethernet, 1 HDMI, audio out, and 3.5mm jack. So the removal of those 2 extra ports may allow the smaller design. And I feel like that there'll be one surprise feature in the Mac Pro. So, yeah, it's they're going to push forward with USB-C. I don't think they're going to retain any original port, USB-style ports in there. Do you think that's sort of fair to say?
Yeah, I don't think we'll see any more USB-A on any Apple desktop computers ever again, pretty much. I think they've decided that USB-C is the future, and probably correctly so. So I don't think we'll see USB-A again.
And finally, I think in this Mac event, they may include a touch bar keyboard with Touch ID. I'm still a bit skeptical about that, but still that is all the way in October, so anything could happen.
How can we be skeptical about that?
I don't know. I feel like they want to bring the touch bar experience to desktop users. So that's the part of me that's thinking they will do it. Yeah. The reason I think not is because that's a big selling feature of the MacBook Pros.
Yeah.
So will that hinder the sales of MacBook Pros? That's the only reason I was a bit skeptical on it.
I agree with you on exactly everything you've said. I also, on the other side, know that Apple's not scared to cannibalize their own sales. So if they sell an iMac instead of a MacBook Pro, then I don't think they care, as long as you're in their ecosystem and happy with your device. However, I don't envision them selling a touch bar keyboard separately, because then people would buy neither of them and just buy the new keyboard and keep the older 5K iMac or whatever the case is. So I don't
think
know.
the touch bar keyboard will be expensive. Like, I'm waiting for the price to be. If you think about the difference between the 13-inch with touch bar and then the one without, I mean, apply that on top of a keyboard price anyway.
Yeah. But that also has 2 extra ports, faster CPU, and touch bar. So, and then some like differential pricing to make it.
I think it's more
separate.
because the Magic Mouse and Magic Keyboard 2 were a bit priced than people expected. So I don't think.
No, I think it'll be more expensive. I just don't know how. I don't know whether they would do it. I don't know if they could make it only iMac, like only included in the box with an iMac. Then what about the Mac Pro users? Are you telling me they're not going to have touch bar for Mac Pro? I don't know. And I'm just like thinking out loud here that it's a really confusing thing, because they obviously see it as important. I just know that they'd rather sell a machine that includes it than a separate keyboard.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with the points there. It's going to be interesting just come October anyway. Even if they do an event, if they don't do any Mac updates this year, that's going to be a surprise to me. But I think finally in this event that I am more confident that they will. But I think that they will release their own updated Apple Thunderbolt display with external GPU, and this will have 3 USB-C ports. It'll have minimal top and bottom bezels, and the left and right bezels will be micro, so it'd be almost look like it's completely to the edge. And these will come in 4 and 5K options.
I think there's no chance of them ever making a Thunderbolt display again. Or
because of ultrafine, or?
I think they've told a couple of reporters that they're out of the business. I don't think they see it as central to their business model anymore. I don't think we'll see it.
Bummer. I think it's one of those things that I want to happen so much, because I just hate the look of the ultrafine, like the boxiness of it, and I just want Apple to have their own fresh, sleek version. But yeah, fair enough. If they feel like they don't want to focus on that area, they won't do it. And at the end of the day, the actual screen itself of the LG Ultrafine is great. This is more of a aesthetics thing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to set your expectations here on this one. That it would be one of those things that would be awesome. I just think it's not going to happen.
But unlikely. Yeah. Oh, well, it's fair enough. We've got till October to pick up on any sorts of rumors along the way.
Yeah.
But that sort of wraps up a Mac event.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think they're going to do any updates in the watch space, and will it be in September?
So I think firstly on watch updates, as I mentioned, I think we'll see a lot of bands released in March. So like more sport bands, probably some more colors on the leather bands. I've seen that some of them are sold out recently. Some of the more arbitrary leather band colors are sold out. So I think we'll see new stuff there. I think if we were to get any updates to Apple Watch itself, it would come in September, potentially cellular connectivity. And I see this as like a more of a reason for, so like the reason I think cellular connectivity is not to say you don't need your phone anymore. I think it's more of just like, okay, you've gone for that hike that we've got your GPS sorted for now, but what if something happens? Can you call 911? Sure, you can. Or you've gone for a run and you didn't take your phone. How about streaming some Apple Music, your Apple Music playlist that you didn't download to your watch first? So I see those as the use cases there. I don't think we'll see a redesign. So yeah,
that will be cool, I think. But I do feel like as part of this September event, Apple Watch is definitely going to be far smaller portion of the presentation.
Yeah.
And the focus is going to be on what we're about to discuss with the iPhones.
So just again on the cellular connectivity, I think an important part that I want to mention would be the greater standalone features with AirPods, allowing you to use the Siri feature for AirPods to like change volume and stuff directly from your watch.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But I think the consensus is that we're not expecting a redesign here.
Nope,
so.
not at all.
No. Okay, so lastly, in September, the iPhone event. So there's a September event as always. Before we go into the actual new iPhones, I feel like there'll be a possible spec bump of the iPhone SE during the year. It'll have no 3D touch still. And this will be a quiet update, but I don't think they're actually going to do anything else with that. Okay, so the big thing that we've been talking about for a while is that there'll be 3 new iPhones this year. So these are commonly rumored to be known as 7S, 7S Plus, and 8. So I think that the 7S naming won't exist and they will all use 8. So this kind of goes against a lot of what the rumors reckon. What's your take on that before we talk about the actual phones?
So this changes probably weekly on what I think will happen, but I currently think we will see 7S and 7S Plus and then Anniversary Edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was so hard for me. Like I was putting some notes down of my predictions and it changed 3 times. I initially was confident that 7S would be a thing, but here we go. So I think we will have iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus. So this removes the whole S cycle name. And the reason for this is because they will be visually different as to warrant, a whole new number rather than just having S on the end. So it'll be the same 4.7 and 5.5 inch screen sizes. There'll be material redesign. They'll be replaced, they're going to replace the aluminium rounded edge with glass back panel and flat aluminium edge. Think sort of like the iPhone 4, 4S design. I feel like there'll be micro bezels on the left and right, and the bezels at the top and bottom will be a lot smaller, but it'll still have to accommodate a home button. So I think that they'll be a little bit thinner than the 7 Plus, and because of, if you think back to how the 4 and 4S were, there wasn't any camera bump, so I don't think there'll be a camera bump either. There'll be upgraded specs, including, particularly with low light performance with the camera. The 8 will still be single lens, and the 8 Plus still dual lens. Still Lightning port. I think they're going to retain that and not put USB-C in. Definitely OLED display. I think wireless charging is going to be the big feature of it, and there'll be higher waterproof rating. So before I talk about this other third iPhone, what do you think about those sort of specs? Or you sort of thinking that the 7S thing will happen instead?
Yeah, so I think 7S will be a thing. I think it could include like a second camera on the smaller version, 4.7 inch. I'm not fully convinced about that. Definitely OLED display. Ooh, I don't know. I was going to say, I did say definitely, but potentially OLED display. Wireless charging, I think, is a big one. So I know one of the major rumored potential suppliers is potentially overstating their abilities. And I know Apple would obviously scout that out correctly, but I think people are looking at this technology saying, oh, it's becoming mainstream this year, because I'm not talking about wireless where you put it on a pad. I'm talking about wireless from a meter's distance where you can actually like lie in bed and hold your phone and it still be charging. I don't see Apple implementing wireless on a mat. For me, that's a pointless charging solution. As soon as you take it off, it's not charging anymore, and therefore a cable is more useful. So wireless charging, I think we'll see when they can get it at a range of about 1 meter.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like there is going to be one, aside from a redesign, whether it's with these models or this third one that we're about to talk about, they're going to have one big feature that'll push it. And to me, I feel like that will be wireless charging. I'm hoping.
Like wireless on a mat?
Without a mat. Like
a meter's distance wireless.
Yeah, something like that. The wireless charging, I think, will be with these. So you're calling them 7S and 7S Plus. I'm calling them 8 and 8 Plus.
Okay.
Both these phones that we're currently talking about are not the new third one. Like, that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah. Are they still like they significantly redesigned or not really?
Well, yeah. So basically, what I was just saying is that the screen sizes are the same, but it has the glass, the flat edge, and smaller bezels on top and bottom and that sort of thing. So I feel like it's kind of like, take your current iPhone, but make it more 4S-like and just reduce the top and bottom. That's sort of what I'm feeling like they're going to do to then warrant it being called the 8 and 8 Plus. Yeah. Along with wireless charging. Okay, so then the rumoured third iPhone, I don't think it'll be called iPhone X or Anniversary Edition. I don't think it'll have a different number. So you were thinking 7S and then this being 8. So I think that's as I mentioned before, we will have 8 and 8 Plus, then this third one. It'll be something different. So I think it'll have 8 and then a letter like you do with 6S. So it won't be C and it won't be E because they've been used, iPhone 5C and SE. Won't be G or K because there's terms like 4G and 4K that, are tech terms. So I listed down iPhone 8X, iPhone 8P, or iPhone 8A. I don't exactly know what either of those letters mean yet.
Pro for 8P?
Possibly Pro for P. X because of... Well, see, the thing with the X is like that's 10th anniversary, but they keep using X in the future or not, So it could just mean something else. And A, I don't know. I was sort of going through letters of the alphabet, but yeah. So think of this like with the Samsung Galaxy S7 and then S7 Edge. This third iPhone would be like the Edge, but do you know what I mean? Still within the same number range, but it's got something tacked on the end to it. Yeah, okay. So a 5.8-inch screen size with not all of it being touchscreen. It'll have curved glass at the edges with a stainless steel edge, I think, or maybe aluminium. But that edge will be quite thin. Now, the curve I feel like will be similar to the watch. It won't be like the Galaxy Edge where it's a full curve round. It'll be partial curve. Now, it won't feel huge in the hand because the left, right, and bottom bezels will be very, very micro. The home button will be part of the screen, and there'll be a minimal top bezel on the at the top for the FaceTime camera and the earpiece. So think like the iPad Pro we were talking about.
Yep.
Those sort of design changes. This is like the big redesign I'm talking about. Do you think all those will happen?
I do think so. One of the things with the bezels at the top with the camera, so there have been some patents for embedding the camera in the screen, and I think like only today or yesterday there's a rumor about the earpiece also being like behind the screen. I don't know how good it would sound, but I know the Xiaomi Mi Mix, whatever phone, it's like the ceramic one, it uses conduction, like bone conduction in your ears to actually make the sound. It doesn't have a front facing speaker. So, yeah, they could do something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd love to see like not any bezel at the top if they're going to go micro at left, right, and bottom. But I don't think that technology along with the supply will be there yet. I feel like maybe the year after or something they'd do that. But yeah, I feel like that the curved edges, I think will serve more as a visual thing and not actually be like, the Galaxy Edge where they use the edge of it.
Yeah.
Like, do
absolutely.
you think that's fair? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like I see it as, so the Apple Watch Series 2 and Series 1, normal Apple Watches have like a seamless fit. You can't really tell. Well, you can, but it's quite like, it's really seamless where there's the stainless steel, the body becomes the screen. I think we'll see something more like the ceramic Apple Watch where there's this like little lip.
Yeah. Yep.
Where it fits on. Yeah. And that would be like the stainless steel lip going around.
I think the difference is that the actual, that where the screen curves, there'll actually be screen under there. Because as you know, with the Apple Watch there, that's just the glass that's curving and not the actual screen. Whereas I think the actual screen will be curving. But, definitely looking forward to whatever they call it, however it looks. There's, a whole bunch of concepts out there, a few of them that look pretty good, a few that are ridiculous as always. But, the actual, features in it, I think it'll have dual lens. I think it'll have a lightning port, OLED display, definitely, I think, for that.
Yeah, this one will definitely have an OLED display.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how they pitch it. Because, this sort of, it's essentially a larger screen phone, and it's going to need kind of like all the top-end features. So OLED display, definitely. Wireless charging, I think for sure. Assuming that, it happens with the other phones too. I think they might take Touch ID beyond the home button. That would be cool, but I think that there'll be one more big feature, possibly involving augmented reality, but say something like facial recognition. I don't think they will have an iris scanner, but something involving facial recognition or gestures. So do you feel like that's possible for the September event with this phone?
Most of it, I'm not sure whether it will have a port or not. That will be an interesting thing to see what happens. It depends on how wireless charging goes, I guess. I'm also not sure about Touch ID beyond the home button. I don't know. It's really, I just wish we could see it right now. What are they working on? But it would be cool. I guess we'll see a hint of that on whatever happens with the iPad, the 10.5 inch iPad or the new Pro. Just on Touch ID and the rumor of like a second factor authentication. This is quite like a popular new rumor going around. Why do you see that they would do that? Is Touch ID not enough?
I haven't really thought about that one too much, actually.
Yeah, I think, like, so one of the things I thought of was, there's some people that have spoofed or claimed to spoof the fingerprint sensor, like they put it on another, like on a clear laminate and then use their finger behind it and then it reads the laminate. I'm not sure if that actually happens or if this would be in response to that. And then would it be like just a plain camera, or would it actually sense depth? So could you just do that and then hold up a picture of the guy? I don't know. I'm less convinced about this.
I think either way, come September, I mean, we've obviously got months of rumors to fly in as well, but it's going to be really interesting. I mean, last year, the whole talk was about a big iPhone redesign, and it wasn't until months before that's like, oh no, that's actually being pushed to the year after. So this has essentially been like by the time comes around, like a 2-year wait for this big redesign. And I mean, I can't wait to actually see how it all comes out. I hope to be surprised.
Yeah, I think we will be. I think there'll be some cool stuff with the 10th anniversary iPhone. I see it as this year's coming iPhone as being like with the 7S being like the Series 1 Apple Watch, where it's not flagship, but it's not entirely the old model and slightly lower cost. So I think we'll see that coming in.
Okay.
And then naming wise, I don't know if iPhone, the anniversary edition will be called iPhone 8. It might just be called iPhone, like just iPhone.
Or if it was anniversary edition, you know how like SE is like, iPhone SE, anniversary edition would be like iPhone AE.
Oh, that sounds very interesting. But something along those lines where it's just iPhone, no number. And then like whatever letter branding it could be, not iPhone X, probably I'm with you on that one. And then speaking of iPhone SE, I think we might see an iPhone SE refresh, probably just internal spec bump. I do think we'll see some 3D touch added to it, though. I think that's now seen as less differential. It was, while it was the 6S's flagship feature, they can't keep on being like, well, this is only exclusive to a high-end phone. So I think we'll see a 3D touch on iPhone SE.
I'm definitely on board with them doing a spec bump for it. But it would be good if they added 3D touch. I'm not entirely sure, but that would be good because, as you say, now that technology has existed for so long, so it won't be like a huge deal to throw it in.
Yeah, and anecdotally, I see like a lot of people in Sydney have an iPhone SE, so just looking around, it seems pretty popular.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so that pretty much brings us to the end of what we've predicted for the year. Is there anything else that you think that we've missed or you want to throw in?
So I'll just quickly run through some of the stuff. I think there's 0% chance of seeing an Apple car launching in 2017 or even being announced in 2017.
Definitely agree.
Siri Speaker, as I mentioned, will actually be released in September. And then like some just observations. Just on Apple's business model, I think we can expect them to continue to focus on the high end, focus on their high turnover elements. So that would be the iPhone and less so like a 12.9 inch iPad Pro. I unfortunately expect them to keep older models around. This is like the MacBook Air. Continued scarcity for new devices. So I don't expect supply chain stuff to be solved. And then I think we'll see like a responsiveness to user issues the same way we have seen in the last year, where they've come out and addressed issues that they believe aren't issues or that people are getting wrong. And then some accessories. I don't think we'll see any update to AirPods. I know some websites have really been pushing for version 2s, but I don't think we'll see that. I think
too soon. Yeah, too soon.
I think we'll see a battery case for iPhone 7 Plus. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. I think all that we've covered, however much actually occurs, becomes reality. It's going to be a real feature-packed year. Very exciting. Obviously, the next step being this March event, so we'll definitely let you know about any happenings with that, and especially if they secure a date, you can find out. But of course, as the podcast is every second week, if you want to follow us on social media, you can find out of any of these important updates straight away. So if you just search Apple Size on Facebook, or you can find us on Instagram. On Twitter, we are at AppleSizeAU. And as I mentioned at the start, we AppleSize are a entrant in the Castaway Awards, Australia's first podcast awards. If you go to our bit.ly link, that's bit.ly/vote slice, you can vote for us there, and I'll post a how-to video for the vote in the next week or so. And yeah, definitely we've laid out what we think is going to happen this year with Apple. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you think that we got something massively wrong, definitely love to hear that sort of thing too, what your take is on it. And yeah, finally, if you're hanging around iTunes, drop a review and rate us. That'd be very much appreciated. And if you would like to subscribe, if this is your first time listening and you want to get episodes as they come out, search Apple Slice in the podcast app, Stitcher, TuneIn, or most other podcast players. So yeah, we've had a few differences with our predictions there. I think we're looking into different crystal balls maybe. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Nick?
Yeah, I think just go check out the latest Apple Watch and AirPods and iPhone 7 Plus ads. So they're really cool, and I would like to hear your feedback on them.
Yeah, definitely. Apple have really been pushing these adverts out thick and fast. Always entertaining to watch. So go check those out too.
Cool.
All right, Nick. It's been another bumper episode. Yeah. Seems to be a running theme for 2017, but yeah, it's good to have a chat, hear your thoughts, and I will catch you in the next episode.
Yeah, good to chat to you as always. Cheers.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.